Hey everyone, super excited. I've got Kendra on, one of my oldies but goodies from quite a long time ago. I mean, Kendra, what has it been? When was it? Like it was.
I guess it's been just about over 10 years. It was
Yeah.
2009 that you tutored me in high school. Wow, that was like,
Can
it
you
seems like it was yesterday.
I know, and it's really weird seeing you as like an adult now, like,
Yeah,
I mean, I know I look practically the same, wouldn't you say?
you do. You look exactly the same.
I'm just kidding.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. So, and this is, by the way, this is what I love is that like we get to work with so many different kids, and then I end up being Facebook friends, and then we still get to connect. And I know you're doing amazing things. So let's
Right.
talk about in 2009 when we met and what was going on with you and why we ended up connecting.
Okay, so in 2009, if everyone remembers correctly, there was the swine flu, H1N1, going around. It was a different strand of the flu that came back around, and it was just like a really severe sickness that hit people. It primarily affected, you know, infants as well as elderly people, and then also a portion of teenagers as well. So I was a teenager about 16. I had just started my fall semester of high school, my junior year, and was gearing up to really start focusing on my applications for college. It was really important to me where I got into college. I had some really top tier schools on my list. I ended up getting into Pepperdine University and studying theater arts there, which I'm super happy about. But I got sick at the beginning of junior year and was properly out of school for at least a month and a half. And then after that, I started going to school for like a few hours at a time and stuff like that. So, having you come to my house to tutor me was awesome because, I had been separated from my classmates and stuff like that. And I just felt like in my whole own world. And I like the fact that you were able to fill me in with everything we were learning in school, as well as tutor me for those upcoming SATs.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember like even in world religions trying to teach you. I was basically your teacher at
Right.
that time, and it was tough. I mean, I remember like you were having a hard time breathing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it
And
was
the kids at school were making fun of the fact they thought you had something else going on. And so I was like, just ignore those guys. Like, let's
right.
focus on what needs to happen here.
Well, it's cool because for me, I've always been the type of, person who approaches the discipline of learning with such a like, I'm here to learn. When I'm there for those particular hours, it's all about how much can I get through and organize in my mind to move forward. I'm someone who thinks that schooling is so important because it informs my day-to-day life, like forever after. And I look back and use all of those concepts that we've covered to apply to running my own small business and running my career as a musician. And with the stuff with kids at school, I mean, does that ever really change?
I know. I was floored when I remember your mom Beth had said to me, like, hey, this is what Kendra is dealing with. These kids thinks, why she's in the hospital for something else, but this is really what it is. And I was like, and so I walked in just blank slate with you. I was like, do you mind sharing? I know it's been a long time, but
Yeah.
do you mind sharing maybe a story or two you may remember from the time we worked together? I'd love to personally hear it too.
Yeah. So I think one thing that comes to mind is the fact I was just like rethinking over some of these memories. And I remember my mom would make me like dinner and, I'd be at home like all day because I was super, still in recovery mode. So my mom would make me dinner. We'd sit at the counter downstairs in my
In the
kitchen.
island.
Yeah. And I think my favorite memories come through on like the math, the math stuff I was in. Let's see, I was in pre-calculus AP at the time. Was I in
I
AP?
think you were.
I think I was too. And so pre-calculus is really interesting because it combines like all those things that you learn in algebra and stuff like that, but it takes it to a whole another level with like spatial planes and like understanding how these concepts really work and why we learn them and how to apply them. So for instance, like in high school, when I would miss one pre-calc class or like be a few minutes late, I would just be like, if I walked in and it was like, we were on the second part of the lesson, I was just like, well,
You missed everything.
which X are we solving for? Because you start with that initial X. So I remember when we sat down to work on my math homework, I was just like, I hope that she's the type of tutor that can just like dig in and then we just keep building from there. So it was really cool because you were able to see exactly whatever we were working on. Like you mentioned with the world religions, you just like saw it and outlined it as a mentor would too.
Absolutely. A lot of students during this time, either school's canceled or they're just going virtual. I've heard some where teachers are just assigning tasks and it's the reverse classroom where you have to watch some videos. And if it's a class that you may not understand as super well,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of kids are struggling. A lot of parents, though, are hesitant about possibly getting a tutor or getting test prep or getting help. Do you have any thoughts around that, since you've experienced us and how much of a difference that can make, in a student, especially with second semester junior year, or even in high school in general, because we both went to the same private school and we know how
Mm-hmm.
challenging academics can be.
Mm-hmm. So I would say the most beneficial thing, and this also plays into like me being a performer now, is it's all about the rehearsal work. It's all about knowing exactly where you are in the song, in the math problem, in the critical reading analysis. You need to remember where you are while also moving forward. There's so many moving parts going on. So when I sat down to take the SAT, I was able to put all of my worries aside because I had done all the preparation work. And also when I went back in to take those tests in school, because I would go in, I said I was going back to school for like a few hours at a time. Well, I would go in to take my tests. And, in the review class period before a test, you're able to ask the teacher, oh, are you going to ask this question that way and that way that you've been like teaching us? So I was worried about those questions that would be asked in a way that was like, oh, you had to be there to know the answer. So all that preparation work was really imperative when it got to sitting down and taking those important tests, because I didn't have to worry because I had done the preparation work.
Absolutely. A lot of students right now, the 3-hour AP is becoming a 45-minute online test, and they're not finishing up their curriculum fully. Would you recommend getting a coach to help them with that process?
Yes, I would definitely recommend that. I have to tell you that looking back, all of those times that I went the extra measure to make sure that I understood a concept and make sure that I did all of my work and went that extra mile to add those particular things to an essay, those things always worked out for my betterment. I'm able to go back and pull on concepts that I learned years ago because they were really drilled into my mind. We spend so many hours in school, and it's because those are the hours that are like building you up for when you're out there in the real world.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Both of us obviously run small businesses and are in the real world. And I know as your mentor during a crisis like this, if a student has something like this or, is suffering, and then now, and technically, if you look at it, most students right now are not in school, or they're in a situation that is a crisis mode, and they're scrambling.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about why the skills that we went over, the power of outlining, how to study, how to effectively organize yourself, how it's helping you now? So a lot of people think like, oh, my job and my team is let's get kids A's, let's get them into college. But can we talk about the fact now that you were 11 years out from me?
Oh my gosh.
Right? 11 years since we sat at that little brownish island where your mom was cooking, and we'd have your books open. I remember it because this is pre-internet, internet was there, but pre-Facebook, pre-social media, pre-Uber, everybody. Pre-Airbnb,
right.
It was like back in the day.
Right.
But can we talk about the fact that, a lot of the skills we teach, and I try to tell families this, the skills that we teach will last a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk a little bit about how having a coach, having a mentor, having someone to be able to organize you, how it's impacted you now, and how those skills are almost just as important as getting an A in world religions?
Yeah. It's really important because, becoming a young adult who is an entrepreneur, or just becoming a young adult in general, there's so many different plates that you have to keep spinning while you're just adding more plates to the mix. So for instance, okay, so we're at home right now and everyone is technically just working from home. Like since I run my own business as a musician and artist, I mean, my week is completely filled up.
Is
And
that
that's
it?
not even,
I love that. You're still using a planner.
yeah, my week is completely filled up with like live streams and like stuff like that.
Right.
But that's not even including my to-do list. I'm running through emails with people. I'm running through numbers. I'm running through times and dates. There's so many things that I'm keeping up in the air that I need to keep a cool and collected mind about. And I think like it's the same idea as being in a class and having to reach for that concept that you are just understanding. It's like that and getting the answer right. It's like that every single day when you are running your own show. It's like you keep reaching for those new answers, and it's a day-to-day thing to have that drive and motivation to get something, to call it yours. You know, I'm getting the A not just because I want to get into Pepperdine University, but I'm getting the A because I expect that quality out of myself, and I will today, tomorrow, 10 more years from now, and so on.
Absolutely. And I think one of the big things, I think a lot of people can understand is, yes, it is about the journey, and it is about, the skills you learn underneath: drive, motivation, hunger, hustle.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be very real. I'm sure there's some musicians right now that are just drinking and hanging out. They're not doing what you're doing. They don't have your planner. They don't have your work ethic, that are like, okay, if we can't do a show, I'm just going to hang out and do this.
Yeah.
That's just not who you are.
Well, I think that it's so much about what you put in to a certain thing is what you're going to get out of it.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, you do have to ask yourself, what am I looking to get out of my life? And this is the thing for teenagers. And I would love to tap myself on my own shoulder and tell myself this, that like, it might be all like cool and whatever now, but in 10 years, when you are sitting where I am, you're going to be so glad that you put in that time and effort to solidify getting those A's that get you a better chance to get into the colleges that you want to go to. Because when you meet contacts out there for networking purposes, they're going to ask, where'd you go to school? What did you do in high school? How do you like to spend your time now? And you just have to ask yourself, what are you looking for in life?
Absolutely. And, the thing that you talk about, I'm right now working on a very detailed report about the effects of college admissions in your lifetime. And the fact is that, like I went to Rice, and I will say, like, every year I get a card from Rice alumni, the whole board, and they say, Neha, we watch you on the news, we follow you, we just tell you how grateful we are for the positive work you do that shows us in such a great light. But also, I know that if push comes to shove and things get rough, I can call up Rice alums, and like that, I have something.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like a lot of what we pay for, not just about what you learn in college and all the skills, wouldn't you say it's also the network that you've built?
It's entirely the network that you've built. And it's like that name status. For instance, I still go to the Pepperdine campus to show off the campus to my friends or family or whoever's visiting, but also to check in, because these are people who are making a difference in a field. It's a private Christian school, so making a difference in a field that's a betterment for our community, for like, the good intentions of the soul, as well as like those people that I met at Pepperdine are also doing big things.
Yep.
There's a gal who's like got a starring role in a new Netflix show. There's a girl who was like Miss USA and stuff like that. And then there's me who's touring nationally as a musician. There's people doing all sorts of stuff. And in the business sector, in the religion sector, arts, all of that. And I know those people because of where I went to school.
Exactly. Another thing I want to touch on too is, one of the big things we do in the college admissions process at College Shortcuts is we help people to figure out how to format their resume, how to put together what they're doing and create a unique angle or a thread of who they are. And then to understand how to write things in a way that sell who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
As someone now, 11 years later, in a way, would you say that those skills of learning how to market yourself at a younger age are paying 10, 100,000 times fold 10 to 11 years later.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's definitely like that. For instance, when you're pitching yourself to someone in an elevator pitch or in an email, it's pretty much every single time I meet someone. I mean, especially here in Los Angeles, everyone can be a network contact. But for instance, whenever I'm reaching out about a new opportunity, I'm always pitching myself in an email, saying what my name, saying who I am, what I do, where I come from, what I can bring to the table, what I can offer. And that started to really be built in my early teen years. And by that, I mean like me knowing who I am, which for marketing purposes would be me knowing my brand, knowing my image. When I walked in, when you walk into college your first day, you want to know who you are, what sororities you want to rush, and what clubs you want to go to and stuff like that. So it's good to run through these things because you will be faced with choices and millions of opportunities, and you want to be able to know which opportunities to pursue at the drop of a hat, because it gives you more time to pursue that opportunity.
Absolutely. And I feel like, so many people know that it is very powerful, especially now more than ever in the world, to be able to market yourself. I'm actually considering creating a class on how to brand yourself, as a teenager, and how to do that online, because that's something I love doing. And I do find it's going to be more and more important as we go on and on, that you do need to have a digital presence. You need to have a digital presence in a certain way. Do you have any last comments that you want to leave for people that are listening, just about,
Yeah, I do have a comment. So take that extra step to solidify the future that you desire. Take that extra step to create yourself into the person who you see yourself to be. Only you are the one who can do that for yourself, or your parents too. But be grateful for that opportunity to learn more. You will be grateful for it even furthermore down the road when you get to be my age.
Totally. And would you say that, I know I met you at such a critical time in your life. And I know it was simple things like teaching you world religion, math, science. Like, I was basically your teacher that came a few hours a day, and helped you with that, and obviously I've done a lot more with what I do, since we started together. But would you say that now, all the kids right now getting help in the admissions process and, learning these types of skills is more important in 2020, and in general, years to come, than anything else? Like, having a mentor or coach a few steps ahead could really help you.
It's really important because it sets you apart in the admissions process. For instance, during this time, you want to create an essay that really sticks out. How did this time affect you? Is that the type of theme that you'd like to discuss? And when you have a mentor or someone like you who's been through this so many different times, you know how to bring out that best, writing style of the student. I would say during this time, it's a time to shine. Even as to draw a parallel from musicians, like, for instance, some of my shows have gotten rescheduled. I'm doing live streams now, and I'm doing a virtual tour, collaborating with different hotels and venues across the country to do a virtual tour.
Wow.
And so during this time, I'm showing who I am by shining in all the right
even
places.
Brighter. You're taking
brighter.
What you do,
yeah,
and you're packaging it in another format, but you're still being you.
Well, I think this shows during these times, like, are you going to be the person who adapts to change, or are you going to be the person who sits and hunkers down and just waits for it to roll over?
Yes. I talked in my last video on Facebook, I talked about if you are prepared, if you're adaptable, and if you are flexible, you will get through this time way easier than everybody else.
Exactly. And you'll also set yourself up for success when we come out of these times. Like, I'm reaching tons of fans and listeners who would have not heard about me for a little bit longer.
Totally.
They saw me in person or heard through a friend or something like that. Now I'm in their living room.
Yeah. You're like right there.
Yeah.
Well, Kendra, it is so great to connect with you. I know that, obviously we went to the same high school. I'm so glad to hear, things are well. It's been really fun following you, just in general, because it's, I do remember our times together, even though it was a long time ago and I worked with thousands of kids, but like, some of the kids in my early days, I remember most, and it just, I remember that time so clearly when I came to your room upstairs and you like kind of had a mask on, or you even had like a breathing tube, something was going on that was really intense. And I didn't have to ask you, as a coach, I didn't have to ask you details, like, all about exactly what's going on with you, technical. Like I just went in there and was like, how can I best serve this human being in this time? And that was me 11 years younger than who I am today. But I just remember those times when, you were defeated at that time in terms of academics, of like, I have so much to catch up on. And it's junior year, which is the hardest year at EHS.
Yeah.
I mean,
plus we have that big junior research paper.
Oh God, that
in
paper.
the next semester too.
Oh my God.
There's that looming thing on my head too, is that research paper.
Oh my God. You know what's so funny now that I think about it? I'm writing a 33-page research paper. And it's funny because I've been feeling the anxiety of the same thing, because I'm having to do references and everything that we did during that paper. But I'm so glad, I'm so glad our school, private school was amazing, right? Because it taught us things that, I'm now still using those skills from then, but I'm so glad that, we're still connecting, and that, even during that time, you remember like your tutor, like how much of an impact that can make on your life and so forth. So I'm so glad everyone's here listening. I'm glad that you're staying safe. And, you've been able to take a lot of what we've worked together on and apply it to now. And I'm going to continue to support you from far away. And I'm so excited about everything you're doing. I truly believe we're living in a time where if people find their passion early, and that's a big reason why I developed my mentorship program for mentors to help kids find their passion. But if we can find our passion early, do the right thing in college, build that right network, you are light years above and ahead.
Oh my gosh. So much so. So as early as you can start, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love you, Kendra.
Love you too. Thanks for having me on today.